everyone. I'm Anna Huthmaker at Huthmaker Violins, and you have stumbled across another one of our Students Stuck at Home series. These are little videos to try and help teach you something when you're not able to go to school and learn. So today, this one's actually a really cool one. I'm kind of letting you behind the scenes. We are in the workshop, the bass and cello workshop here at Huthmaker Violins. This is where all the magic happens. And today we're going to talk about what the inside of your instrument looks like. Now, if you ever come visit us, we have this really cool violin that's made so that you can actually look inside and see how it functions. Now, that's going to be kind of difficult. Let's see if I can hold it like this. That's okay if you can't see everything, because I'm going to show you in a much better way in a few minutes. But you can tell that there's some stuff going on in there that normally you don't get to see. So how am I going to give you an opportunity to look closer? Well, that's very simple. Let me put this down and let me switch cameras. And I'm going to show you my lovely assistant, Jonathan, who is like the bass and cello dude.
That's
so,
me.
all right, so Jonathan has taken the top off this bass, and he's going to show us what it looks like on the inside.
So, this is what the inside of the top of the bass looks like, and it's really just an enlarged version of what your violin or viola or cello would look like. This is the bass bar.
Okay, now wait, I have to ask you a quick question. Mm-hmm. Is that nailed on?
No, it is chalk fitted and glued on.
What does chalk fitted mean? I don't know what that means.
So chalk fitted just means that you you put chalk on the bottom of the bass bar so that you can tell that there are no open spaces.
So in other words, it's like to make it a perfect fit.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So and how important is that? I mean, is that something you replace once a year? Is it something that's for the life of the instrument?
The bass bar, it can be replaced. It's a big job, but normally you want the bass bar to be relatively permanent. And what it does is it transfers the sound vibrations throughout the top.
That is cool. Okay, now, and I do have to also interrupt you because everyone's going to want to know, what are these little square pieces of wood that are on this?
So those are relatively poorly done.
Not by us.
Not by me. Cleats. And what cleats are is they're reinforced pieces of rectangular or diamond-shaped spruce that reinforce cracks. And as I said, these are pretty bad examples just because they're not done very well. But that's what they do. That's their purpose.
So what Jonathan's actually doing with this bass, and this is a really intense restoration job, it's pretty cool because he will be undoing old, poorly done repairs and then doing them correctly. So that's pretty awesome. All right, so let's look at the inside. I hope that my camera movements are not making anybody seasick, but let's look at the inside of this instrument. So what's going on in here besides it looks like a big giant bathtub?
Right, so on the inside, again, it's a big version of your violin. You have an upper block. You have 4 corner blocks.
All right, so wait, hold on. So the block is this big giant piece of wood here? Is that what that is?
That's what that is.
What is that? Is that glue on the end of it?
Yes.
So again, this is an old bass. How old is this bass?
It's probably 100 years old, maybe more.
All right, and that's a corner block?
Corner block, yes. There are 4 of those on each corner. And then a lower block.
Now, I once actually had my dad, overheard him saying that an instrument without blocks was like a cheaper instrument, like without corner blocks. Is that true?
Yes, for the most part that is true, yes. When they made them cheaper and faster, they would leave out corner blocks.
Why has that got a big old hole in it?
That's for the end pin.
So in other words, if you can look inside your violin or viola, it won't have a hole in the end block like that. Or will it?
Yes, it will.
Oh, okay, because for the
end button.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
See, this is why he's the cello bass dude and I'm the bow person.
It's much smaller though, because in a bass and a cello you have to have a large one for the end pin. In the violin and viola you have a small one for the end button, which is what the tailpiece wraps around to hold the strings on.
Gotcha. We're going to do another video on the parts of the instrument because it did occur to me that maybe not everyone knows all your parts. So we'll come back to that. I actually also want to know about this. And so that little faceted piece of wood, what is that?
Right, so that's called a lining. And that is, they go all the way around the top and bottom of the sides of the instrument, which we call the ribs. And it's really just an extra glue surface and also a reinforcing of the ribs.
And these are separate pieces of wood, like when you make the base? Separate.
Yes. Yep.
All right, so what goes here in the middle?
What goes in the middle would be the sound post.
Now, I know a lot of you guys have actually heard of this. Sorry, I got my camera a little crazy. But I know most of you know that in your instrument you have a sound post. And probably most of you know that it's not glued in, it's not nailed in. It's just held there by pressure.
Yep. So it's a pressure fit. When you're fitting a sound post, this is where it would sit approximately. But you have to fit it through the F-hole with a special tool. It's kind of shaped like an S, so you can get it through there. You poke a little hole in the sound post, and this is a cylindrical piece of spruce, which is the same wood that the top is made out of and all the blocks. And what you have to do, again, this is a fairly poor example, but you shape the top and bottom of the sound post to the exact arching of the top and bottom of the instrument that you're fitting the post into, so that there are no gaps at all, just like the fitting of the bass bar. No gaps, so that the sound transmission is as good as it can be, because the sound post transmits the sound from the top to the back.
All right, and so I want everyone to imagine this, because, so like Jonathan will fit a new sound post in this bass once the top goes back on. But when you do this, you can't crawl inside. You have to use mirrors, you have to use instinct and experience. That's the big one.
Correct.
To get that perfect fit. So the next time you go to the shop, because your sound post fell down, I want you to be aware of the amazing skill that actually went into fitting the sound post. Or if your sound post doesn't fit well and you need to get one fit well, then knowing what actually goes into it, because it's such an art.
It is. It took a long time to learn. I went to school for a long time, and it was one of the more difficult things that we learned. But yes, so when the top is glued on, you have to fit it through the F-hole. So as Anna said, you can't really see much of what you're doing. So we actually use the hole in the lower block, which is for your end pin. You take that out, and that way you can see what you're doing, and you also can use mirrors and lights. So it takes a while to fit one.
So we will cover sound post fitting probably in a future video. But now here's what's very cool. You know what the inside of your instrument looks like. One more thing. Can you remove the top for me one more time, Jonathan? So my lovely assistant Vanna White. So
they probably don't know who Vanna White is.
Probably not, but your parents would. Here's one more thing I want to show you. That is the label that's inside this bass. And I know it may be upside down to you because I'm on the wrong side of the bass. But here's what I want you to know. We're going to talk about labels in an upcoming video because they're a really fascinating subject all their own. But that's the last thing that's on the inside of an instrument that you need to know about. If you have any questions about what's on the inside of your instrument, if you have any questions about cello or bass restoration for Jonathan,
I'm your man.
Or Anna, I'm the bow queen, then holler at us at huthmakerviolins.com. We hope you learned something. Oh, you need some extra credit. Okay, so this is your assignment for the day. Go get out your instrument and look in the F-holes, get a flashlight. You can use the flashlight on your phone and see if you can see, maybe you can see the linings from in there. You'll be able to see the sound post if you look around. You might be able to see the edge of the bass bar. So see what you can't check out in there. It's kind of cool. It's a whole world going on in there. Thanks so much. We'll see you guys on the next video.
Bye. Thanks, guys.